So that's the one that like basically like the credit card system we want to work on today. Just a quick review of what was the case. This was our case for this practice. Okay, so if we recall from the midterm exam, we had this credit card system that we wanted to create like and let the user choose to make a payment, calculate interest, credit line increase, request the credit line increase, and also viewing account details. I want to create a system that actually like every account has the ability to do this. So I want to think of them as one single unit. For every account, they want to have like every account has a balance, has available balance, has a credit line, has an APR, and then like for each account, for each customer can make a payment to their account, they can request a credit line increase, they can view their account summary, as well as they can see how much monthly interest they would pay for the current balance if they don't pay their, like, let's say the balance on time. Okay. So that's the point. That's the goal here. We already like basically work on this. You can go and check out the record. I think we recorded that session as well, that we went through like the project and like reviewing it. Today we want to like create an object-oriented program for this one. So let me create a new project here. Okay. By the way, like first of all, thank you for like submitting the homeworks. I will like do my best to like basically grade them, check them, try to give you some feedback by tomorrow, maybe like midday, to be able to have like at least some feedback to review before the midterm exam. So I'll do that. I'll try to do it. Okay, first, I'm gonna add a class to like to the project. I will just name it account. Unlimited account. And like if you recall, like when you create a new class, like basically in this version, at least it automatically adds a constructor to the class. What's a constructor? Constructor allows you to create objects from the class. It's a method, it's a special type of method. Remember, it's just the access type and the name of the method. So there is no class or void or return type. So it's very unique. Only public and then account. Basically, that's the class. We have public class account, and this is the constructor. So I will just add this end of the class, okay, and construct. Okay, step one, adding the fields, class fields. These are unique characteristics of that class. Don't think of them as a class, think of like account and say, what is a unique characteristics in this context for account? Every account has an account balance, has like a credit line for that account, has an APR, has like maybe available balance. These are telling me something, they're describing, giving me some information about the account, and I need to record them. Okay, I need to record that information. So that tells me that these are the things that I want to specify as a class field. So public, okay, no, yeah, fields, private. Okay, we specify the like class fields as private, private. Um, so account balance, account balance, credit line, APR, and then one thing I will also want to specify is an account like a class field is an available balance. This is something that like it will be like used over and over again. So I want to add it as a class field, but I will keep in mind one thing, which is like available credit is a calculated field, right? What's an available like balance? Available credit is like credit line minus the account balance. So it's a calculated field. Just keep that in mind. Why? Because we'll talk about it like when you talk about like creating the properties. Okay, so it's a calculated field. Available. I'll just name it available uh, like balance. You remember from the like the description that it said like APR is like 0.24 and like basically initial account like credit line is 5,000. That was like what was that? So it said credit line in it like is currently at 5,000 and like APR is 0.24. So do I need to like set here 5,000? Yes or no? This is very important. We are creating the template for every account. And the template doesn't have like shouldn't store any information. Okay. So this is particularly for an account. But when you're creating like a template, you're thinking about every account. And that's why you don't set any type of value unless in one case. What is that? It's a constant variable. Okay, tax, constant. For every template, it's the same. So I will say constant tax rate, and that's the tax rate. Other than that, this is a variable, right? It varies from account to account. So I won't set any value inside the template. That's the template. You set the values later in a store information when you create objects or instances from the class. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind that like these are the fields. And if you want to set value to them, that's why you create properties for the fields. You want to create a property to allow like outside to like set a value or store information in the like the fields. So let's start by the properties. Okay. So I want to create property for like for each field, but I will get to each one of them separately. First, for the account balance. Okay. So public double account balance. What's a property is a special type of method, right? It's a special type of method, so its name is exactly the same name as the class, like the field name, but it starts with the capital case. Okay, it's a special type of method because it doesn't have parentheses. You don't add a parenthesis for it like a property. What is the goal of a property? Like you see, we specified the fields as private. So now outside this class, it's not accessible. That's why we create properties so we can allow accessibility to the class fields so that you can store information in a field or you can read the value that is stored in a field. Okay. So you want to define them. I will define for the account balance, I will define get to allow the user to call this method to read the information about the account balance. And set. So that like the user can call this property and set a value to this field. When we specify like a variable as a class field, that is accessible through every method inside the class. Okay. So inside the class, it is like accessible. It like once you type it shows you. So we can use the field. We should use the fields inside the class. We only use the fields. Use the properties outside the class. Okay. So again, public double credit line. Mm. How about available credit, available balance or credit? You said it's a calculated field, okay? It's a calculated field. In this case, there's some, like a lot of times you will need to know what is the available balance, okay? So maybe it is a good thing to like define a property for it. But well, keep in mind, it's a calculated field. When it's a calculated field, the best way is to not define direct a way to set a value to that field. That's why I define this when I define the property for it, okay? I'm going to define the property, but only so I can know what is available balance to get its value, not to set a value to it. So available credit, sorry, available balance, and only defining the get, not the set. It's the calculated field. It's like this. If I have the account balance and if I have the credit line, I can calculate the available balance, and that should be the case. I don't want to like directly allow the user to set a value to this balance, okay? By not defining the set side, I'm limiting the user's ability to like set a value to account available balance. It's a calculated field, and I want to make it limited to only if you want to do that, you can do it through calling the method that calculates the available balance. And for that reason, I will like create a method, say public. Oh, okay, I see. I missed this one. Okay. I messed up this. Okay, now it's correct. Okay, that's why I want to create a method to calculate the available balance. Okay. Double. No. Level. I mentioned just one thing, which is inside the class. When you're working in the class, creating the template, inside any method, which one are you using, the property or the field? Property or the field? The field itself, okay? So for example, let me go with the property and tell you what is the difference. Available, okay? So available balance, one is a field, one is a property. I'm still inside the class. If I'm inside the class, I shouldn't use the property here. I have access to the field. I should use the field, not the property itself, okay? So this one is a property. I'm still in the class and creating the methods. Inside the methods inside the class, I'm using the fields, not the property, okay? So instead of the property, I will use the field itself. This is the field, not the property, okay? So we are still in the class and we are using the fields. Available balance is, again, use the field, not the property, which is credit line minus like account balance. Available balance. Yes.
You go back up to the basically where you were in plan one. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to mention one thing here. At this point, it's a good time to talk about it. So you see, we defined this method to return the value, like after available credit is calculated, it returns the value. Now I want to say that like you have two options. Okay, you can choose which one you want to like use this here. Why? First, because I already created a property, okay, available balance. I created a property which I can use to know what is the value of available balance. Okay, if I need to, I can call this, like use this property to call it and get the value of available balance. So in the case of like in this method, when you calculate it, you have two options. You can use this way to say every time we calculate it, we also want to return the value of available like balance, okay? Or we can like skip this part and define this as a void and only define it to calculate it because we already have a property for it, okay? So this method will calculate it, and then if you want to know what is the value stored in it, then you can call the property to return the value, okay? So this way, you're only creating one way to know what is the value of available balance through like the property itself. Or again, you can like define this method also to like to say, no, like I want to like define this as a double to return the value of available balance after the calculation. So both of them are correct. In my view, like both of them are correct. And like each one, like you choose. But in this case, defining it as a void and not having the property is kind of problematic, then you wouldn't know what is the available balance, and every time you have to like maybe like create it and like calculate it in a different way. But since we already created a property for it, this one is kind of like a additional work to say also return the value after the calculation. Okay. Question. Okay. So calculate available balance. Okay, now at this point, okay, before I get to the like the behavior methods, I want to also add one more constructor to the class. Okay, we use constructors when we create objects from the class and we want to initialize it. Want to initialize the object. So for now, we have only one constructor, and like that constructor is without any parameter. That means that you can create objects from the class and start using them without storing any information in the object right away. Okay. So in cases that you don't know anything about the account and you're just starting the account, you can use this constructor. A lot of times the data already exists. For example, you're reading the data from the database and like you have all the data about an account. And you want to do this very quickly. You want to store the information right away while like you're creating an object. That's when for that type of scenario, okay, for that type of scenario, what I want to do is I want to also add another constructor to the class in the case of that scenario. Again, constructors follow the same structure. Public, the access data type. There is no return type. There is no class or anything, just the name of the class. The name of the class, exactly. So in this case, account. And then parentheses, okay. So we already have a constructor with account. Constructors should be different in one way, and that is the number of parameters that they have. We already have a constructor that doesn't have any parameters, so the number of parameters is 0. I'm creating another constructor with more parameters. I want to use this constructor when I have the information about the account, so I can call it and like right away set the information to the fields. So I want to say, okay, I will use this when I have, okay, when I have the like some information about like I know what is the account balance, the credit line, these things, and I pass them through as a parameter. So using parameters, I will pass the information to the objects and like initialize like the fields right away. So for that, I need to specify a set of parameters. So I will name the parameters as underline. Okay. This one is like credit line. Can name that like this is a parameter, so it names doesn't matter, like it's not specified, it can be anything, but you want to use like relevant names, so when we are passing the information or we are using this constructor, we know what is it that we are passing to that like object. That's why I kind of like use similar names, just adding on the line to distinguish between the class field and the parameter itself. Another one is the like account balance. I'll just name this account balance, like it's a parameter. Name doesn't, there is no rule for naming. Bubble, underline APR, and then, okay. How about the available balance? Again, it's a calculated field, so I'm not gonna pass that, okay? I'm not gonna set it right away. This is something that I can calculate it and like add it here, okay? So in this case, let's say I want to do that, okay? First, credit line could be set to credit line. Account balance should be set to account balance. APR should be set to APR. And now, because I know what is a credit line and account balance, okay, I can just call the calculate available balance, so it also like sets the value to available balance. This doesn't happen that much that like you call like the method like inside the class, a method like from like inside the class. But in this case, it is something that we can do and it helps, but you don't forget to initialize the available balance, okay? You have the account like credit line and you have the available like you have the like credit line and account balance. So you should be able to also set the value, the available balance. Okay, so this is only like the constructor, okay? Use this constructor when we have the like the information, okay? We have the information later. This is not here, okay? This is just a template. When we create the objects and we want to like create an object and initialize it, if we have the accounts information already, we can call this method and then pass the information so we can like right away set the information. Okay, so far we created the constructor. We created like the this kind of like this method is look like it is kind of another way of looking at it. Could be like a property, just it's a calculation. So we are just like using like a method to calculate the available balance and set that value. Any questions so far? Okay, now let's think about class behavior methods. Okay, class behavior methods. What are the behavior methods? These are the behaviors of each account, okay? Exactly the options that you implemented, these are each one of them is one of the behaviors of this class. So what are they? Let me see, I think I had the file here. The behaviors are making payments, calculating interest, requesting credit line increase, and viewing account details. Each one of them is one of the tasks that should be implemented in this like template. For every account, you should be able to make a payment, should be able to like calculate interest, monthly interest. If you want to know what is your monthly interest, you should be able to like request the credit line increase and also viewing account details. For those of you who've taken 430, should look like the user use cases. When you're thinking about for every account, you're thinking, what are the use cases for the user? The user will use this application to view their app like information, to make a payment, to calculate interest. And exactly every use case becomes a method inside that class. So that was the next stage that we didn't talk about in 430, and that becomes here, which is those information translate into class methods and like say every like use case becomes one method inside that class. That's just something that like for review it in case like some people have taken it before. But again, verb noun, right? Every task will implemented as one of the methods of that class. And like some of them through multiple methods, but one of like this, you're allowing the account to like perform this task. One of them is a making payment. So let's implement that. Make payments. Okay, so I want to implement like a ability for the account to make a payment. What's a make a payment? You get a payment and take that from the account, right? That's the make a payment. So that's it. Public double make payment. So what's the make a payment is that you give me the amount. For a given amount, I will update the account balance. Okay, this is kind of an update method. You give me the amount, how much you want to deposit, and I like basically take that from the account balance. Again, we are still inside the class. So which one should we use, property or field? Field, right? Field. So I say account balance equals account balance. Okay, so I don't know what is the amount. This is one of those things that like every time you call the method, you should pass the information. That's why like this should be specified as a method prop, like a parameter. So you pass the amount and that amount will be like reduced from the account balance. You see, I only have one variable that at all times carries the like the account balance. I didn't create a new field. I don't want to like if you store information in multiple fields, then that would be very problematic. You don't want to like you won't be able to figure out like which variable has the current information. Okay. So for example, that would be one of the mistakes that I would say, okay, I will like add this and say like I wanted like do this, like take the amount from account balance and then store it in another variable. We don't want to do that. We want to have one variable that at all times carries that information, the account balance, always being like the current value. So that's why like I have one field and that field like every time will be updated. The value of in that field will be updated. Again, I created this as a like with a return type, so I specify the return to be account balance. But you have two choices in this case again, because we already created a property for account balance. If the user wants to know what is the account balance value, they can call the property. So either you like define this method this way to return it, or the other version, which is the correct version, is to define this as void. Okay, only call this method to update the value of account balance. If you want to know what is the value of account balance, use the property. Okay, call the property and know what is the value. So you have like both of the methods, like designs should be like correct. Any question? Okay, let's implement another function. Okay, these are use cases for the user. The user will use this account to make a payment, use the account to like basically what was that? Like check like calculate or check monthly interest. Okay. Check for the monthly interest. So I want to create a method to do that. Public, again, I'll go with the same one, same design. Okay, calculate monthly interest. We had a formula for like monthly interest. I can go through like the code that we had. What was the monthly interest? It was like the account balance multiplied by APR divided by 12. Okay, so account balance multiplied by APR minus like divided by 12. So that's the case again. Okay. So here I will need you to like create this monthly payment or interest. This one is like a local field. We didn't create any variable here to store the like the result of this calculation. That's why I created this. Monthly interest is the account balance multiplied by APR divided by 12. And then return monthly interest. So you're saying like we are not thinking about one account. We're thinking like every account, these are the functions of like that, like every customer wants to have. So we are implementing them as methods, and every method becomes like one of these functions that the user is able to do, like to see your like account, to make your payment. And each one of these methods is performing one single task, not getting input, process, and output, only one task, right? The input has already been collected. The assumption, the method is going to perform one single task. In this case, the make a payment, the assumption is that we already have collected the amount, and based on the amount, then we call the method to make the payment. Okay, so the input has, like before this method, the input has been collected. Every time you're like creating a method, check that assumption. Okay, then the method is designed for the process or output. If it's a process, if it's an output, but we shouldn't have one method. In this case, again, I don't have any outputs. If there is going to be an output, there is going to be another method or another way to create that message. But the method is responsible for performing that task, whether it's a calculation, update, I don't know, maybe a search or any type of thing, but one single task. Okay, the other like function of this application is that the user can request, okay, can request the credit line increase. Okay, another function, the users want to like be able to like check if they can like get a credit line increase. For a credit line increase, let's review what was the credit line increase. So credit line increase had it like a formula to say, like check the available credit. If it was greater than 2,000, the user gets like 1,000, it like increase 1,000. If it's between 1,000 and 2,000, 100, otherwise zero. Okay. So that would be the amount. And then based on the amount, then we would add that amount. Let me see what's the credit line. So we would get the increased amount, and then we would like update the like basically the credit line. So in this case, we have two methods to implement. One is that we see how much, whether like the user is eligible for like a credit line increase, and then if so, we get the amount and add it to the credit line. Okay. So first, let's check. Okay. And check like credit line. Credit line request. The user can request a credit line increase, and then you can check. This is a formula that usually like probably the system, like they already know, like basically they will tell you this is the way that we calculate the, like we will check for a credit line increase. So if first, like in this case, we want to see if like, for example, if it's above 2,000, the available credit, then you like the amount, like the additional amount. So I need to create like a local field, okay? Say like increase amount. Okay, so if available credit or available balance. Okay. the field, not the property. Greater or equal to 1,000. Okay. Yes, okay, let me do this, then I will come back. If available balance, then increase amount is set to 1,000. Else, if available balance is greater equal 1,000, increase amount is set to 100. Else, increase amount is set to 0. And then increase amount. I wanted to specify to review from prior units that like if you have an if and else, okay, if the statement is only one line of code, you don't have to put it inside the like a curly bracket. Okay, you can like specify it without curly bracket. But if it is more than one line of code, you have to put it inside the curly bracket. So keep that in mind. That's something that like I've seen sometimes like we make mistakes. Adding the like curly brackets, make sure that like you have the boundaries and like you want to make sure you don't like code outside that boundary. So that's a good thing to add them. Okay. So this one, we created to check like the request and request amount. So for now, it's just about like increased amount. Now we need to think about like adding that value. Like if it is greater than 0, adding that value to the credit line. So we didn't implement this, okay? And I will create another one, okay? Double add credit line. What am I adding to the credit line? It should be passed as a parameter. Okay. And then credit line plus equal increase amount. So one method checks if the user like how much the user like basically checks the like how much they can increase, either it's 0, 100, 1,000. And if that's the case, well, like if it is greater than 0, then you can like call this method, pass the like the amount, and then it updates or adds it to the credit line. And then returns it. Again, in this case, because like we already have created a credit line property for the credit line, this thing like it's kind of an optional. Either you can use it like with a return type, or you can use like define this method as void. It's kind of optional because you have a property that like will tell you what is the value of a credit line. Okay. Any question? Now, I want to mention one thing, okay? Which is, let me see, what's the topic? I want to mention one thing. I'll close this one. So we have these two, and also this one. Okay, so we have these two methods. Here's the thing. After the account balance is updated, the available balance is like will change, right? But we didn't change it. So just you want to keep that in mind. You didn't do it, then you have to remember to do it in the code later. Or in this case, I think it's better to just like add it here. Why? Because it will happen for every time that this like the like make payment happens. So I will add it here, which is, you know, calculate available balance. The same way here, the credit line has changed. So again, calculate available balance. So I can change the available balance. I added that to the method to inside the class just because this will happen for every time. And like this is something that like you always want to keep like exactly the current value of the like the fields. So since the account balance has changed, you want to make sure that you update the available balance. Since the credit line has changed, then you want to again update the available balance. This way you always keep the current information like in that field. So I added that. Either you can like do this later or you add it here. In this case, I think this is something that we can like add it here. I'll do that, like I'll review it later to see how we can implement this. Okay, so with that, let's go. Okay, let's keep this like basically the template for now like this. Okay, and then go to the program class and start getting information. So far, we only created the template, no data, no information. Now we want to get the information and store it about each account. So first, I need to create an instance from the class. Account class, I'll name it account equals new account. Okay, add the parentheses, and that's when you will see 1 out of 2 because you created 2 constructors for the class. You have 2 ways to like create and initialize the object from the class. One, without the parameters. One, when you have the information, and then you have to pass these information to start the object. Credit line, account balance, and APR. Okay, so you have to pass that information. In this case, I'll use this one. Okay. So a few things I know. Like the instructions tell me that account dot. This is the time that we start using the property. Okay. Inside the class, we talked about that use the fields inside the class. Outside the class, when you create an object and start using the object, that's when the properties will become useful. So I will use the like credit line to set it to 5,000. This was the instruction. And also like the account APR is 0.24. So now I'm storing information. I'm working with data. That's when you create an instance from the class and store information in the object, in the instance. The class, when we are creating the class, we're thinking about like every account and like template for every account has these features and like these characteristics, these functions. Now we're actually just thinking about getting the information. So credit line, and then also like console write line. So enter account balance, account balance is convert to double console. The instruction said the account, like the start account, like credit line is 5,000, but prompt the user to get the account balance. Okay, we got the account balance. So we have the credit line, we have the account balance. We also want to like set a value to another class field. What is that? The available balance. Okay, I will just call the calculate available balance. So I can like initialize the available balance because I have the credit line and also I have the account balance. Okay, now we can implement the options. Okay, let's say we want to make payments. If the option was payment, you needed to prompt the user to enter like the amount and check if the amount is less or equal to the balance. If that's the case, then apply the payment. So first, prompt the user, okay, to enter the amount. First, prompt the user to enter the amount. And then like you want to like create like a field, local field to get the amount. Read line. Okay, so input, process, output, separating them. That's when it becomes like very useful. Here, we get the input. Okay, now process. Okay, if the amount is less equal the account balance. Okay, what should happen? Account dot make payments, and we pass the amount. Okay. Can do this here. Let's create this string. Sorry, string output. Okay, I want to put this here. And then indicate output. So output equals transaction. Else output equals transaction not successful. Actually didn't need it. There was no variable here. So transaction was not successful. Okay, and then console the right line. Okay. Okay, so collected the input, check if the account balance is like greater than the amount, and then make the payment and like display basically like prepare the correct output, and then after that like the output. Okay, now let me just mention that part that we did. You see here, make like after like making the payment, we added the calculate balance. Okay, so I added there. Let's say I didn't add it there. Okay, if I didn't have it there, then I would need to, after this account that make payment, I should have called calculate available balance again, so it updates the value of account balance. So either one of these, like both of them are correct. Just keep in mind that's something that like you want to do like for each, like every time that like you're updating the account. Okay, so because you made the payment, the balance changed, then you need to change the available balance. That was the point. Either you have it like you didn't like add it here, or like I will add it here, and maybe like I don't have to like add it here to like update the like calculate the balance. Okay, so since I added to the class, I will have just to make the payment, and it will make the payment and update the account. For example, another one would be like calculate interest. Okay, calculate interest should be just about, okay, monthly interest is account dot calculate monthly interest. out your monthly interest, and then you can display that information to the user. Also, like, remember in the app, like read key, you don't add it, it doesn't display anything. That's just something that's like you want to keep in mind. Okay. So you can also like add the other options here, like we already implemented the template. You can add the other functions too. But you saw how it happened. Like first we created the template thinking about like the constructor, the class fields, the properties, the behavior method. Behavior methods is kind of like those functions, one task, one method. And then you create objects, instances from the class and start getting information and store information in the objects and then manipulate that. We have a attendance rate, right? I think. So that should be it. That's the same type of like a practice that we will like a question that we'll have in the midterm exam. You will get like one like project. You want to like implement it with an object-oriented programming. Implement the class and then there is like a format that you want to collect information and perform some set of tasks. And that should be it. Hopefully, this was useful and like prepares you for the midterm.
Wake up early like last time.
Yes, I will try my best to remember to come here in class.